Hi, welcome to Sweet Treats and Delectable Eats. Today we are going to make caramel meringues. And in order to do that, we have to first make a variation of Italian meringue. Italian meringue, you beat egg whites to stiff peaks and then pour a sugar syrup that's 238 degrees over them, and that cooks the egg whites, and then you can use it to top pies. But to make caramel meringues, we're going to heat the sugar syrup to a caramel stage, which is about 300 degrees. And when we do that, the texture of the meringue will change, so you don't really want to use this meringue to top pies. But since I'm going to pipe it out and dry them, they're really good to eat like that, and the texture doesn't matter. So first, I have half a cup of water in this pot, and I'm going to add a cup of sugar and stir it to dissolve. And then I'm going to put it on the stove and heat it to caramel stage, which will start changing color. Normally you'd want to use a candy thermometer for this, but mine just recently broke, so I don't have one. If you were going to make actual Italian meringue, you would need to have a candy thermometer because there's no color change to indicate when that's done. So I'm going to put this on the stove, turn the heat on. And you want to stir this a little to make sure it's dissolved, but once it's dissolved, you do not want to stir it because it'll start crystallizing. That's going to take a while to heat up to the right temperature because it stays at about 212 for a long time because of the amount of water in it. But once it gets past that point, it heats up a lot faster. So in this measuring cup, I have half a cup of egg whites. You should have them at room temperature because when you beat them, they incorporate more air at room temperature. So you're just going to pour that in the mixer bowl with the wire whip attachment. And I'm going to put this flash guard on. And you want to beat those on high speed until they have stiff peaks. See, it's stiff. And once the sugar syrup reaches the right temperature, we're going to pour it in the meringue while mixing. And I'm probably also going to add a little bit of vanilla. So I'll come back when the sugar syrup has reached the right temperature. The sugar syrup is just starting to change color. It's been several minutes. Once it starts changing color, it changes color pretty quickly, so it can get really dark without you meaning it to. Okay, see, the sugar syrup has a nice caramel color. You don't want to let that cool down too much once you pull it off the stove, because once it starts to cool down, it'll harden quickly. So you're going to want to turn the mixer on and slowly pour this into the mixer. You're going to want to whip that until the mixer bowl is cool, which will be quite a few minutes. While this is mixing, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of vanilla and about a teaspoon of salt. The salt is optional, but I kind of like the salty, sweet taste that it gives. Alright, the bowl is much cooler than it was. So I'm going to scrape the mixer handle. This meringue is too thick, really, to do anything else with except to make meringue candies, because the sugar syrup was way hotter than what you would normally do. But it gives a good flavor to the candies and also a nice light caramel color. So I have a cookie sheet lined with foil. I normally use parchment paper, but I only had a little left. I also have a pastry bag fixed with a tip. You can use a spiky one or just a plain round one. I'm going to spoon the meringue into the pastry bag. Kind of a messy thing. This is pretty much the same technique as I used for the chocolate drops in the last episode. So you're going to want to pipe little drops onto the cookie sheet. About that size. You're going to want to continue doing that until you have all the meringue piped out. Then you're going to put the tray in a 200-degree oven for several hours until the meringue is completely dried out. As you can see, the caramel meringues are finished. They were in the 200-degree oven for 2.5 hours and now they're dry. They're very light and they're ready to eat. They're good to bring somewhere and share. They're simple, light. Everyone will love them.